right now. Bunmi Omisore, pro-affirmative action student at both Duke and at UNC Chapel Hill. And I'm curious what your reaction is. I know that you were hoping this would go the other way. What do you make of what you've learned in their decision so far, that they say can't simply be sort of a check mark based on identity, but must be part of a student's narrative, what they present to the school as part of their biography?
Well, I would say that I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. When we talk about holistic admissions, to say that you can include a student's identity, the student, the person behind the papers and the grades and the test scores, that you're not allowed to include race, which is such an encompassing part of at least my identity as an underrepresented minority, it makes me feel upset. We know what happens when affirmative action goes away from universities. We can look at California, we can look at Michigan, who has already banned it, and see how their state flagships lack a astounding number of Black and Latino students. The one thing that really is making me sad, I'll just say today, is that my identity has to be my race, the struggles that I've gone through, the trauma I've gone through as an African-American woman in the United States. If I were applying to college today, I would have to write about those traumas in my Common App essay. I would have to write about those traumas and those very hard experiences for admissions officers to accept the overwhelming truth that we all know, which is that it is hard to be a Black person in America. And I don't think that's fair.
And Bunmi, that's the point John Caro was making moments ago, that students might now be forced to write about their experiences, or about particular experiences that perhaps they might not have included in their essays, because they're not allowed now moving forward to put on that piece of paper a key part of their identity. That's what you're saying here?
Yeah, I'm saying that, like, for example, when I was applying to college last year, I had put down that I'm African American. I had put down that I come from a Nigerian family, and being from the area that I was, everyone who is involved in college admissions knows that I was, by being Black, more likely to experience things such as under-resourced schools, which I went to growing up, more likely to have teachers that didn't look like me, which was the case in my school. I did not have a Black teacher. And so I think that when it comes to kids who are applying in the next cycle, it is going to be hard to see themselves as someone outside of their race. I feel like that's what allowed affirmative action, by it being limited in the past to just being one factor considered amongst a host of others in a holistic process. It was never going to be the deciding factor after Bakke versus UC Davis, I believe, though many people still believe that it is. And I think that now that students are forced to talk about racial discrimination and their experiences with it, their obstacles with it in their college essays, they're now being known by their race first and by their academics and otherwise other experiences second, because they have to put that in the forefront to prove their experiences through racism in the United States.
Bunmi Omisore, we really appreciate your perspective.